everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Jedi Way here on the Outlaw Nation. I just noticed what he's doing on the Outlaw Nation channel. Really excited that we've got the entire crew on the ship today to have fun talking about Star Wars here as Star Wars Celebration is just about to start. I am John Rocha, also known as Rocha Fed around these parts. Joined as always by the OG there, the great Laura Kelly, the co-host of Force Toast Pod. How are you, Laura?
I'm doing great. I just made that realization that Tokyo is 14 hours ahead of me. I'm in Central Time.
Yeah.
And so anything that drops Friday morning, we're going to get Thursday night. So we get it ahead of time, but also not I don't know. It's a weird time's weird. But I'm excited for it to get all the news on a somewhat, I don't know, at least not the middle of the night. Some of it's, I'm sure, going to be middle of the night. But yeah, I'm excited. I've seen a lot of pictures of a lot of fun-looking adventures happening in Japan. And now a lot of people are sort of descending on the convention center. And so I'm seeing pictures of a lot of merch. And yeah, it just looks like it's already a great time.
Absolutely. It looks like a lot of fun. And someone who'd be having a lot of fun as well in Tokyo, Japan at Star Wars Celebration. I hope he isn't choking in that helmet. That's our own brother here, Kevin Smets. How are you, Smasher?
Oh, I can't see a thing in here. What movie's that? What movie? Rick Moranis, Spaceballs.
Spaceballs? There it is.
Rocha, you know who this is?
I think that's Darth Plagueis, right? Isn't that right?
Darth Revan. Revan, the Revan that features in my KOTOR Convergence movie, which I'm still waiting on the VR expertise from you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
2 weeks.
I will handle it today or tomorrow. I promise.
We announced a release date. I didn't want to put pressure on you. You know, you have a lot to do. We announced we wanted to announce it with the TV spot with your beautiful booming voice, but I didn't want to get on you because I know you have 1,000 different things. So we ended up releasing a clip with the release date. But we have a spot lined up and ready to go with your beautiful booming voice.
Yes,
so I want to put you on blast in public. So,
thank you, man. I appreciate it.
If anybody's mad that there hasn't been a KOTOR trailer yet. Blame it. Right here. Blame him. Send all your hate mail. Just kidding. It's fine. We had a clip. Everything's great. But I wanted to. But yeah, that's Darth Revan, by the way, everybody.
Yeah. I don't know where. I think you sent me the. Did you send me the dialogue? Is that what it was?
Did. Yeah, text. Yeah. You just scroll up, you'll find it. It's not that much.
In 2025, worlds collide. The epic battle begins.
Revan.
No, I'm not spoiling. All right, I let it go.
Dude, when is the release date, though? We announced it. It's going to be June 14th, I think.
Nice.
Because I'm going to Wu-Tang on June 21st, so I had to push it up a week. Wu-Tang. Just
casually dropping that. Just name dropping Wu-Tang clan up in here. Okay. All right.
I'm not hanging out with them backstage. I had to buy a ticket like anyone else. I'm not that cool.
I was I bought the CD there, mister. I bought it off the Pharma Bro, dude. I bought the CD. I am now the only one that owns it. I am now the only one.
June 14th, sometime in the afternoon. That's a Saturday. It'll be premiering on our channel. So I look forward to seeing everybody there. But yeah, good to see you guys. And celebrate. I don't know if we're in the future. So we see it before them in time, but they see it. But they know what the future is like, Laura, because they know what tomorrow already is. So we should ask them.
They do.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah, it's confusing. I don't really get it. All I know is that for me, I think it's 14 hours that they're ahead. So
that would be 17 hours for us, right? Or
16 hours for us because she's Central Time, right?
All right. Yeah. I know about that. I'm stupid.
So they're 11 a.m. Wait, their 11 a.m. on Friday morning is what? Our
midnight? Oh, now you stop me.
Our midnight on Thursday? I think it's our midnight on Thursday. I think.
Why I hand the check. I pay, but I always hand the check to my wife. I'm like, dude, make sure you tip 21%. I can't. My eyes are bad, and also my math is bad. So it's two things at once. So yeah, I believe so. We're gonna get it earlier in the calendar,
right?
But everybody out there is gonna post anyway, so it's not like they have to wait until. It's not like we have to wait. Never mind. My brain's about to explode. I don't even know what it means, but
I should have hired one of those things that goes around on the wheels and your face is on it, like one of those Zoom, and just hired and put it in Japan. They should have let you buy one of those to be in there so you could attend.
Live from Japan next week. We just have to all do the green screen.
Right. Just
perfect.
It'd be perfect. Anyway, we got so much to get into here on the Jedi Way here about Star Wars. And not everything has to do with Celebration because nothing's been announced in Celebration other than The Mandalorian and Grogu. I've heard from a few sources that Ryan Gosling will be at Star Wars Celebration. I've already seen pictures. Yeah, that's what I've heard. And I've already seen pictures of Hayden Christensen hanging out with the fans on a hike, taking a picture with them on a hike. So clearly a lot of people are at Star Wars.
How many younglings were with him on the hike?
Oh, well, I mean, he's past that phase. Isn't he past that phase?
Be careful, kids.
Some of us will never be past that phase.
He'll slaughter you. He's
just throwing them off the cliffs. For
Someone
fun.
calls and says, "Hey man, I got order 66 over here at In-N-Out," and he's
like Winter Soldier.
I don't think they have. Maybe they don't. I don't think they have In-N-Out in Japan. So I blew that joke. But you guys,
I don't know. There's a lot in Japan. They might. Who knows? Who knows? But anyway, we got that going on, and of course, that the opening panel will be the feature film panel. So it's only an hour. So I wonder how much of that we're going to see. And there are rumors that a Mandalorian and Grogu trailer is coming. I would imagine it would drop at the same time as the panel, which would be overnight possibly. So we will see how that all plays out, because I'm already staying up till midnight tonight as we're recording this for a trailer reaction for the new 28 Days Later trailer. So that's coming out at midnight tonight. So, but anyway, we're here to talk Star Wars. We got a lot of stories to get into. And the first one we should get into here is the Mikey Madison story. Let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. Here, Jeff Snyder broke the story this morning on the Christian Harloff Show as we're recording this in the morning there, that Mikey Madison was offered a role in the new and untitled Star Wars movie directed by Shawn Levy there from recent Deadpool and Wolverine fame. But conversations have since ended with Mikey Madison passing on the part. You know that Jonathan Tropper is writing this one and has been writing it for quite some time, which will star Ryan Gosling. There have been rumors that Jodie Comer and Jesse Plemons were involved in this as well, but none of that has been confirmed. The movie is supposedly a standalone project that isn't connected with the Skywalker saga, even though Jodie Comer did play Rey's mom in the Rise of Skywalker. So we'll see on that. But the untitled film is supposed to follow The Mandalorian and Grogu, the only Star Wars film to get a green light in more than 5 years and debuts on May 22nd, 2026. The other part of the story, which is really interesting as well, is that Jeff mentioned that the casting is underway for several key roles, including a 15-year-old protagonist, his mother, 2 antagonists, and another significant female character. And the rumors are that the character Mikey Madison was offered was the main villain. It was going to be a female villain, but the main villain of the piece. So, Laura Kelly, I go to you first. A, what are your thoughts on the story? And B, are you bummed or happy for Mikey Madison that she passed on this offer?
I'm honestly pretty indifferent to her, because my initial reaction when I heard this news was, who? Because apparently I'm the last person on the planet that did not see Honora. However, I did see her in Lady in the Water, which I think I might be the only person on the planet that watched that show. It was on Apple TV Plus, and Apple TV Plus, we all know, does very little marketing of any of their television programs, except Severance gets marketing. Nobody else does.
And Ted Lasso. Those are the only two.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But Lady in the Water is one of the hour-long shows. I think there are 7, 8, maybe 9 episodes. Natalie Portman and Moses Ingram are the 2 main stars in that. And Mikey Madison plays like the spunky lesbian that lives downstairs. She's Natalie Portman's neighbor. It's a really minor role. I don't even know if I'd call it even supporting. It's more like featured. But that's my only exposure to her. So this news was an actress I know nothing about and haven't seen much, might be in a Star Wars, which is just kind of any other day. But I imagine that a lot of people who are like film buffs were probably pretty excited about this, because was she not the winner? Did she not win the Oscar this year for Honora?
Yeah. She won Best Actress for Honora over what a lot of people thought was the sympathetic favorite, was Demi Moore for The Substance. And she's only 26 years old. And so a lot of people were excited initially that she was offered this role. Some people, though, pushed back and were like, why would you go to Star Wars, which is kind of a wounded brand right now after you've won an Oscar? But, you know, you got to work. And a lot of people have dreams to be in a Star Wars movie, a superhero movie. And so I wouldn't falter to have considered it. And if it was going to be a villain role, that's a pretty meaty role to be taking in a film for a guy who just made $1.6 billion off Deadpool and Wolverine. So What do you think, Kevin? Did you like this idea? Are you kind of bummed that she passed on it? Oh, and just to correct Laura, it's Lady in the Lake. Lady in the Water is the
Lady in the Lake.
Right, Lady in the Water is the M. Night Shyamalan film, which nobody else saw.
My bad. Thank you for correcting me on that. But yeah, that's what I would have gotten it right if anybody had seen it or if they had marketed it, which they didn't.
Well, I'll say this. When I first heard it and I heard she passed, I'm like, I get it. She probably has managers and agents that are like, hey, you just won an Oscar. Your next choice is going to be very important. And also, she was probably called Natalie Portman and was like, hey, what do you think? And she was probably like, dude, stay clear. Probably like, dude, stay clear. However, if you notice, most of the people that play the villains, even in the Star Wars projects that are poorly received, are kind of like, you're kind of bulletproof. Like, everybody hated on the sequel trilogy, right? But everybody, for the most part, loved Adam Driver, right? Like, well, Adam Driver was good in it. But yeah, that sucked, right? The villain, people who didn't like Batman Returns. Well, Danny DeVito was great as the Penguin. Or, it seems like the villain roles are always kind of, they get a little bit of a protection because it's not riding on them, right? It's riding on the protagonists and the heroes. So she might have been bulletproof from that. I cited before we started like Jennifer Lawrence, but like Jennifer Lawrence, she did Hunger Games, right? And then started getting these better roles. She was using her ability after after a big franchise, to go after some of the better roles, that some of them that ended up winning her Academy Awards and getting her nominations and stuff like that. So but she still did like X-Men. She was able to like go bounce back and forth. So I think that she probably could have pulled it off and done this Star Wars project and really focused. But, the next one's got to knock it out of the park. I'm sure she's just really nervous about what that next one would be. But I feel like if you got to do a villain role, like you said, it's more meaty it's probably get to really like lean into it. And if it's just one movie, you're not tying yourself in for the next 3 movies and you're the lead. So if it's not a good movie, then it's all on you. Like, I feel like probably would have been bulletproof from that, and she could have still done something else if she had a dream of being in Star Wars. But that's not everyone's dream, right? Like, she got to be in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and she got a dog can and set on fire in a pool. That's pretty cool. So that was see, I told you my joke wasn't going to be that funny. So that was when we almost didn't run the story. I was like, well, I have my Once Upon a Time in Hollywood joke, but I was gonna say like, hey, are they gonna throw her in a pool and catch her on fire? And see, you guys aren't even giving me any sort of chuckle.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What was the setup?
Like I saw that movie once. I don't know. Yeah, I honestly don't know what we're talking about.
One of the people following Manson.
Yeah, she's one of the 2 at the end who fights Brad Pitt, and she gets
attacks her too.
Set on fire in the pool at the end with the flamethrower.
So anyways, I don't blame her for not. I get it if you feel it's poison. And it's not everyone's dream to be in Star Wars. So I hope she doesn't get heat on it. I'm sure she's going to be fine. But I think there's a way where you can do both. We'll see what her next role is. Maybe she wants to keep focusing on, the more independent type roles or something that challenges her. And right now Star Wars wouldn't challenge on her. And I don't fault her for that. So, and again, the way some of these actors and actresses have been treated, maybe it's starting to get around Hollywood, how people were dealing and shitting on Acolyte and all that. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see that. I mean, how can I say this? I understand she's still young and I think she's still building a career. And I think the Jennifer Lawrence is actually an apt comparison, Kevin, because she kind of can play these roles that radiate the kind of DGAF energy and can vacillate between more artistic stuff and more play. I remember she was a series regular on that Better Things show that hardly anyone watched on FX, but it got 3 seasons for Pamela, playing one of the daughters for Pamela Adlon. And so like she has built her name in doing multiple things and working her way up. So getting a shot to lead something like Andor, which I can't imagine anyone thought was really going to win an Oscar or going to, win a Best Picture when they were making the movie. I'm sure they thought they were making a really good movie because Sean Baker's a fantastic director. But, I mean, how do you anticipate this was going to happen? And so she got to the point and won the Oscar at such a young age. So you're right. What's the next step? What's the next thing you do? And from what they're saying, the script is still being written. So maybe for her, it wasn't a meaty enough role, or it wasn't a role that was written out as strongly as it could have been just yet. And so she didn't want to take it because Star Wars has had some issues. And if if they're hanging on you to bring their brand back, you're lending them credibility at this point with your Oscar. Do you really want to take that chance in this kind of a situation? I don't know. Maybe her managers had a conversation and said, like, yeah, nah, this isn't what she's going to do next, and it's not a meaty enough thing. And the focus is going to be on a 15-year-old boy, not on her, and not on, you know, what's going on there. So maybe that just wasn't enough to attract her at this point. But I pull out a little bit farther back. I like the fact that these are the kinds of actors they're looking for to be in this movie. Jesse Plemons rumored, Jodie Comer's the rumor, Mikey Madison got an offer, and Ryan Gosling. That's a strong stable of actors that you're looking at to possibly be in this, Laura. Doesn't this speak volumes to the approach they're taking and the talent they want to bring on to kind of get people back into believing in Star Wars?
Yeah, it's definitely something different. I mean, traditionally, like, Star Wars was full of a lot of unknowns back in like the 70s when it first became a thing. And they've branched out a little bit from that. But yeah, it seems like they're really trying to sort of take it in a different direction. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised with this Mikey Madison thing if maybe the money wasn't there. You win an Oscar, like, you kind of got everyone bent over the barrel. You can ask for whatever you want. And if the money isn't right and Disney wasn't wanting to play ball, I mean, like, get your bag, girl. Like, I think that there's a good chance that the money wasn't enough of an incentive. In addition to the fact that you're right, it probably wasn't a leading role. It sounds like the lead was going to be this 15-year-old boy character.
Right. If that's the actual true approach to the movie. Yeah, good point. Kevin, yeah, imagine, and Laura brings up an excellent point. You know, the money might be a part of this because this is not going to be a huge budgeted movie. Bob Iger's made it clear that he's trying to cut costs. So maybe she felt that it wasn't her jam. I mean, the big rumors around Fantastic Four was that, ironically, the man you mentioned earlier, Adam Driver, was who they were looking at for Reed Richards, but they couldn't afford him. Margot Robbie wanted $20 million to come play Sue Storm. So that wasn't going to be on the table because they're cutting costs at Disney on everything that's under their umbrella. So maybe they felt that the numbers they were offering Mikey were not the right numbers for her too. What do you think about that? Is that a possibility?
I mean, they have a history too of like not paying, you know, like even like someone like Carrie Coon, who, you know, is blown up on
right.
What's that show?
Oh yeah,
White Lotus or whatever. She was talking about
White Lotus. Yeah,
they didn't even want to pay her for like a return appearance, you know, and it was probably she was getting pennies or not pennies. Oh, man, not
she
saying
was getting
pennies.
the same amount. She was getting the same amount. Yeah.
And I think that if she was a big Star Wars fan from childhood on, that this might have been something that she wanted to do. But she's young, and I mean, this is from a generation. I'm trying to think if she's 26, what age she was at. You know, she might not have the same Star Wars fandom. And I think someone that maybe loves Star Wars might take a pay cut to be in Star Wars, and maybe she's like, no, like Laura said, she deserves and wants to get that money. You know.
Yeah, the other option she has on the table right now is the rumors are that she has been offered a lead role in Zach Cregger's Resident Evil reboot. I think Austin Abrams is going to be the lead, but she would be the other lead in the series. So that
I don't know about that. Then I mean, video game adaptations, like I mean, they'd be getting better, but like
that's my
Star Wars over Resident Evil. No offense.
Yeah, that was my reaction too. I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if that's the right way to go," but you know, whatever. If the money's like, right, get it.
I'm thinking because she's going to be in the next Tarantino movie or Scorsese, not because she's going to be in fucking, you know, the next fucking.
Well,
you know,
I mean, Zach Cregger.
Sonic's good, but
Zach Cregger is building as a name with Barbarian, and the recent trailer for Weapons looks pretty awesome. And so this is a name this is not. Who was it that the Paul?
Yul Ball is what I was trying to come up with.
Ball, or who's the guy that married
all these horrible video game movies?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Paul W.S. Anderson. This is not Paul W.S. Anderson or Yui Ball. This is Zach Cregger is on another level, and so I think this is not going to be the Resident Evil that you saw before. This is going to be a much more nuanced and well-made, slightly arty film in their approach to Resident Evil. But I hear you guys. I mean, if you're looking at brands, Resident Evil or Star Wars.
You know, I really want to get a night. You know, I really want like a Victorian Super Mario Brothers, and maybe when they do Zelda, it could be like really cool. Maybe A24 can do the Legend of Zelda.
I don't know, man. A24 is doing a Bloodsport remake, so I mean, what are we talking about here, Kevin? I mean,
if my wife was here, she'd say, "Stop being a grumpy old man." So I'll stop.
Well, we'll see what happens with this film, and we'll see what happens with Mikey Madison's career. But as I said, I think it bodes well that they're looking at these kind of actors to be a part of this Shawn Levy film. And so we'll see when the final cast gets announced. Anything about the 15-year-old being the lead? Does this raise any red flags or hit any bells for you guys, or it sounds like it's a standard Star Wars approach here?
No, I think that sounds about standard. I think that's fine. I know that there's a lot of characters in a lot of the books that when there's like a young teenager that is sort of the lead of it, I'm kind of like, every once in a while I kind of like roll my eyes, like, really, this again? But I always end up liking it, so I really have no room to talk.
You do love Ezra. That's a good point.
I do. I really do.
Kevin, any concerns on a 15-year-old lead for a Star Wars movie? Yeah.
Open opportunities for all ages.
Good point. All ages matter. I love that. Well, speaking of villains, let's move on to Shin Hati. There's some news that broke today, again, as we're recording this. Remember in the season 1 finale of Ahsoka, several characters were left stranded on Peridia when Admiral Thrawn and his Night Sisters escaped with Ezra Bridger, speaking of Ezra, stowing away on their ship. And former Jedi Baylan Skoll, the late great Ray Stevenson, set off on his own to discover the secrets of the planet. His apprentice, Shin Hati, who you see there, Ivana Sakno, who will be playing the villain in Megan 2.0, that Megan sequel, is left to battle Ahsoka Tano Sabine Wren, and she survives but loses, and we last see her approaching a group of bandits with her lightsaber raised. Well, apparently Hati's intentions were not fully made clear there, but a short passage from the upcoming Star Wars Women of the Galaxy book reveals that she does indeed join forces with these bandits before continuing her crusade to bring down Ahsoka and her allies. Shin teams with the roving bandits on Purdy and resumes her hunt for Sabine and Ezra. Without Baylan to temper it, Shin's impulsiveness could lead to challenging scenarios on the far-flung planet where she is stranded. Kevin, this is an interesting description of where we're going with Shin Hati, and why do these books seem to come out and give us this stuff before these shows come out? Because Ahsoka season 2 is being shot right now.
Yeah, I used to be all for that. Like when they first announced like the books, comics, and everything was going to be like, you could read the books and then that'll tie into the movies and stuff. But then the movies started contradicting some of the books, so it's like I don't know what to believe anymore. Or the shows were getting contradicted by the books or the comics and stuff like that.
Right, the lore
I was figuring Skeleton Crew was going to discover them and take them off Peridia. So what did I know? Remember that big theory I had? that one didn't quite work. Yeah, I was hoping a little more for her than just joining up with them and like having this blind search. I always like when I don't necessarily need another redemption, but I was interested in what she was going to do on her own. But she is another chess piece on that board of Peridia, so I don't know why they would want to release that information unless it's really not that pivotal. Or when we finally get a trailer, we'll know she's on there anyway and she's hunting them. But I'm curious, what do you think, Laura?
I don't know. This little reveal doesn't seem all that groundbreaking or spoilery to me. I don't. So I think that if they were like, "Hey, can we put this out there?" I can't see why anybody would be like, "No, that should be kept under wraps strictly." Like, also that image was wild. Like, did you see how bright that was? That's not what Peridia looked like, or the Ahsoka show looked like in general. That show is so gray. Like, man, that's something. That's
better weather. They got rid of that storm front. That it's not the winter anymore over in Peridia.
Apparently not.
Yeah, these are the two bright shots that I can find with her. Yeah.
It was so gray. This is, I don't know. It's interesting to hear, I guess, a little something about Ahsoka. We really haven't gotten anything about this show in terms of news of season 2. I think we got a rumor at one point over the summer that they were going to be filming this summer. They were going to start filming this summer. And I think that's the last we heard. I don't know if we've really gotten much else. So I'm kind of grateful just to have a little breadcrumb about what's happening with Ahsoka season 2. But yeah, I need to go back and rewatch that show because I know that I liked it. I know I liked it when I watched it, but for me in general, looking back on it now, like Shin was kind of a forgettable character. Like I don't remember hardly anything of like where we ended up with her at this point.
Yeah, he kind of overshadowed her because she was like his apprentice for Baylan. And so Baylan, in essence, the Ray Stevenson energy maybe overshadowed her. So for me, when I look at this in context, this makes sense because she's probably going to learn new tactics with these bandits that will help her in the future against Sabine and Ahsoka when she fights them again. And you cast someone like Rory McCann to be Baylan Skoll because you don't want him to overshadow her. And I don't think I don't think he has the same energy as Ray Stevenson. Look, he's a badass, and he was great with I forget the character's
the
name
Hound.
again. Arya with Arya.
Yeah,
like he was great with Arya.
Yeah.
They were good equals and whatever, but he never really overshadowed her because Arya was very much her own person. But in this situation, I think this is interesting because Shin Hati will grow. Ivana Sakno, I think, will grow in the character. And so it's going to be interesting if this is going to be like a three-hander show where you've got Ahsoka and her crew doing what they're doing, Thrawn doing what he's doing, and then Shin Hati on Peridia doing what she's doing, and then eventually leading to them all getting into some battle or meeting up for some fights. So it may be that they're keeping her on Peridia for a bit to cool her jets and learn all this stuff, and then eventually bring her into the main storyline that they've got going on. So, yeah, but I agree with you, Laura. It's not that big of a reveal. I'm just always fascinated when books get a little bit ahead of the content and how much they have to honor that kind of stuff, you know?
Well, I will say it's kind of rare that a book would ever get to be ahead of anything. So often in Star Wars, books are delayed, at least in the High Republic books, comics, all of it is just... It's been better recently, but at least in the last 2 years, it's just been a constant stream of delays. So good on publishing.
Do you know what book is out there right now that you can read right now, Laura?
Is there a Legends book about a character?
But it could be canon in your head. It could still be canon. Plagueis. Plagueis.
He is. He is a dog with a bone, man. He's gonna let
one
that.
Day she's gonna totally throw me for a loop and be like, "I read it. I especially like the blah blah blah," and I'll be like,
What did he say?
Someday, maybe.
Yeah. Someday, yeah.
Well, I haven't gotten a notice for this one, so I hope I get a notice for this one. I want to read this one, Star Wars Women of the Galaxy, see what they've got in there. And so I'm curious to see it, but I like Ivana Sakno. I'm looking forward to seeing what she does in Megan 2.0, and giving her a little bit more agency in this show can only work wonders for the show, hopefully down the road. So we'll see, because I want that season 2 to be better than season 1, and so I'm hoping that that's an element of that'll work. Well, something we got coming up, y'all, is Andor season 2, and we've got some news on this. This is really interesting. Andor, Star Wars has officially recast some major legacy characters in Andor. The first season of Andor, of course, was released in 2022 and predates Rogue One, a Star Wars story. But in its second and final season, it builds up to the events of the 2016 movie. Jesus, that was almost 10 years ago. Holy crap. Oh my God! Wow, that almost qualifies for the Cinephiles next year. Jesus. Wow. So it makes sense that if Andor season 2 leads up to the events of Rogue One, actors will return to reprise their roles. Right? We already seen. Orson Krennic back and other characters back here. Sadly, that is not the case, though, with some actors involved. In a tweet shared by Star Wars Holocron via The Hollywood Reporter, the creator of Andor, Tony Gilroy, has confirmed that some legacy characters have been recast in season 2. The reason given for the recast is a combination of scheduling conflicts and financial issues. Laura is saying about money, but it makes it no less disappointing. Those not reprising their roles officially are Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso. Does that mean they're going to recast her? Wow. Jimmy Smits will not be back as Bail Organa, so will this be a recast?
What?
Ben Daniels, who played General Merrick, and Alistair Petrie, who played General Draven in Rogue One, a Star Wars story, are also not returning. So those are some of those legacy characters that are being recast going into season 2. So are we getting
those are being recast for sure? That
no, I don't.
The Obi-Wan show,
This is saying that they're not showing up. Is what I'm saying.
It's not necessarily that they're going to be recast, but I don't know if it's totally out of the question, right? Like it sounds like maybe Jimmy Smits has been recast, but that is wild. That's a wild idea.
Yeah,
because he's in Rogue One. For me.
Yeah.
Just when you watch everything, I like to watch things in order, and I get when you have to recast someone if they pass away, or like Marvel does it great when they even address it, like when Don Cheadle took over for Terrence Howard and he was like, "Look, it's me. I look different. I get it. Let's move on." When they're in the courthouse,
right.
So I get it, but this Jimmy Smits thing, it's like you can't be in Revenge of the Sith, the Obi-Wan show, Rogue One, but not in Andor. Just write him out. We don't need him. Don't have Bail Organa in it then. Give it to have some other senator. I don't know. That's weird.
This is what he said. This is a Gilroy's quote. Legacy characters are really tricky to bring back. They're very, very expensive. A lot of times their schedules don't work out. There's probably a couple people that we wanted to have in Yavin at the end who are in the beginning of Rogue, but we just couldn't get them because they were busy. So,
He'll be on Alderaan sipping blue milk with his wife. Like,
what do you?
I'm just glad that they're not like. I don't want the idea of like a recast Jyn Erso. Like some of these characters, I'm like, okay, it's been long enough. Like that's fine. In 10 years, it has been like almost 10 years. It is a long time, but it doesn't feel like it's been long enough to like warrant recasting Jyn Erso. Like you don't need to have her in there, especially she's such a poignant part of Rogue One. Like to have her just like slipped in as a little cameo here just feels cheap. Like they're not going to do that. Tony Gilroy is better than that. We all know that. But
I hope so.
I'd like to think that if there's some recasting being done, that he has a delicate enough hand to do it. I remember wondering at one point, like, if you're going to recast Leia, Tony Gilroy is not the worst person to do it. He's a good person to put that in his hands and put that trust in him to actually pull that off.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it's going to be more like a Tarkin or a Dodonna. Like I think, I just don't think that. I think Jimmy Smits can be written off and just be like, yeah, he's on Alderaan right now, and he is back on Yavin in Rogue One. He comes out of the shadows or whatever, and then says, okay, I'll send for my daughter. But like, I know they want certain things to line up at the beginning of Rogue One. Just thinking, I don't know. I don't know if they would do just for a cameo. Yeah, and the Jyn Erso thing, you meet her in she's the protagonist of Rogue One, and she's going to meet Andor, and we're seeing Andor as like how we get to him meeting the protagonist of Rogue One, and then they come together and team up. I don't think we don't need to know her story really doesn't matter. We see the flashbacks and stuff in Rogue One, so like we don't need to necessarily see that in the Andor show. We kind of are aware of how she gets to where she is when they're finally meeting in that control room.
They don't meet before Rogue One, so it would be odd to have her in it. But then again, who knows what she was doing for Saw Gerrera? So with that, because Saw is a big part of, Saw is in Andor season 2. So so will she be? Because her and her dad and stuff. So it'd be interesting. And like I said, with Bail Organa, I mean, look, I would not be surprised that they recast Bail, because Jimmy is, they're not going to spend money de-aging Jimmy. I'm just putting that on the table, honestly. Like they're not going to do that when they're trying to cut costs.
It's so cheap now, though, John. Like I could de-age. Like AI, really? You could de-age. Oh my God, it's so cheap to do that. Really? Like they could do the deep fake on Jimmy Smits, and I don't think Jimmy Smits is going to be requiring a high price tag, right?
No, I don't know. I don't know what Jimmy Smits is.
Why are you fighting me on this, John Rocha? No, I'm trying to fight.
I just know Iger's a cheap ass right now, and I don't think he's going to spend the money. I just don't think he's going to spend the money. But I mean, these are the possibilities.
What's this guy cost? Come on, man.
No.
Like Ben Daniels all of a sudden like a big ball in Star Wars. Come on, man.
Ben Daniels and Alistair Petrie. Those are possibilities.
I do like Alistair Petrie.
Yeah. But I mean, look, we had Genevieve O'Reilly took over from Mon Mothma, so we've had recasting of legacy characters, and at some point, y'all gonna have to get over it. They're gonna recast Luke. They're going to recast Leia. They already recast Han. So 1 out of 3 has already been recast. So, at some point it's going to happen.
Look, recast Luke, recast Han. Like if you're going to use these guys in the later movies, like if you want to do a Luke and Kylo movie, like that's fine. Yeah. Get Sebastian Stan in there or whatever you want to do, or the guy from Mandalorian, like, but I don't know. I just think for a cameo to do a recast, it would just be like, what? Who is this guy now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what's great?
I know you're a big Jimmy Smits hater, but
I love Jimmy Smits. I was just watching 2 episodes of his season 3 in NYPD Blue. I love Jimmy Smits.
I voted for him in the fictional presidential race. I loved him in the West Wing.
West Wing. Yeah.
Could use him as president right now.
I was watching, Laura, I want to hear your thoughts on this, and Kevin after, but like just real quick, because this isn't on the rundown, but it reminded me, I was watching a red carpet interview with Deidre, with the actress who plays Dedra, and it was interesting. She was saying how like Dedra's boyfriend is the Empire. Dedra's love is the Empire, and I was like, wow, that's an interesting answer. Cool. To where we're going in season 2, right? Because a lot of people think her and Cyril are going to have a relationship. And I wonder, with her answering in that way, she was very serious. Like, it wasn't a playful answer. Like, she gave a very, like, thoughtful, like, answer. And if you watch the video, it's up there. And she says, like, the thing is, it's tough because Dedra is committed to the Empire. Like her love is the Empire. Her boyfriend is the Empire. And so I don't know if she'd be able to have a relationship. So that is teasing that this might be explored in season 2 even more, but she clearly wants to choose the Empire. So does this surprise you or excite you to see what her and Cyril are going to navigate in this season 2 of Andor?
Kind of. I mean, I think that seems like a strategy for like setting expectations to answer a question in that way. And like, I don't know, in terms of people who might be like really enthusiastic about like shipping based on a couple of like, shots from a trailer, and probably also putting the kibosh on a turn to the good side. I mean, I think that's another thing that a lot of people were sort of suspecting might happen when we watched season 1 of Andor with her. Maybe that's her just kind of setting expectations of like, hey, this is who she is and this is how it's going to be.
Right.
Just so that nobody's disappointed.
Yeah. Did you see that clip, John?
Yes.
Well, you have the whole season. You probably watched the whole show right here, Mr. Man.
I haven't watched any. Yeah, for
Mr. Man. Why don't you watch episode 12 and get back to us?
We were talking about this before we started the show, but yes, I was sent all 12 episodes of season 2, but I have not watched any of them because I'm still deciding if I'm going to watch them all ahead of time or watch them in real time with everybody else and enjoy.
Did you say you were going to stream it on your X profile?
Yes. Thank you, Kevin. You jealous ass. Now they're going to be like, you know what? Maybe don't give him any more episodes. He's going to.
I will feel so bad if they revoke your codes or what. I'm just kidding, by the way. He's under lock and key, dude.
You know, Star Wars Squad sucks. The Star Wars Squad sucks. Let me just say.
And this is my last episode on the Jedi Way. I just want to thank you for your years.
Oh man, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Well, let's turn to this story now. Speaking of Andor, Tony Gilroy, who is of course promoting the series, is about to start in like 6 days. He was speaking to SFX magazine back in March, and Laura, we kind of touched on this, but this is an extension of what he had said here. But Gilroy specifically said, I always fantasized that the show would break new ground. Oh, let me bring him up here. Would break new ground that someone would be able to make a 3-camera sitcom in Star Wars or a horror movie. We talked about that, Laura. And I think the first thing I said to Kathy Kennedy when she said they want, or maybe it was Kevin, I can't remember at this point, when she said they wanted to open the line was, could you do a courtroom drama and why not? We've worked really hard on Andor to make our lane, and it's up to other people now to find another way to do it. Well, he was talking to Business Insider and at the red carpet premiere for Andor, which just happened a couple of days ago. And to their surprise, Gilroy revealed that he had recently learned that a horror project was already in the works at Star Wars. He said they're doing that. I think they're doing that. I think that's in the works. Yeah. I'm agnostic about what should be done. I mean, I was riffing when I said, do a 3-camera comedy show. I was riffing, and sometimes riffing doesn't work with the Star Wars community, but the right creator and the right comment and the right vibe, you can do anything. I mean, the prospect of venturing into the darker corners of Star Wars through the lens of horror is interesting. And certainly a lot of people have talked about horror in Star Wars. I mean, could the Jedi Knights face a terrifying undead horde with their lightsabers clashing against reanimated people? We've had, at the end of Ahsoka, had stormtroopers getting mind controlled, in essence, kind of zombies to fight there. So a Sith Lord, what if a Sith Lord went full horror evil on that? So, I mean, Vader was close at times with some of his horror aspects. So, Laura, does this surprise you that they've already been kind of working on one? Do you buy what Tony Gilroy is saying, and would you want to see it?
I am somewhat surprised that it's something that could potentially play out on screen. We've seen elements of it in publishing, but the idea of it happening on screen is actually kind of mind-blowing. And the reason I say that is because whenever we talk about this sort of genre bending of Star Wars, I think back to Dave Filoni having that conversation with George Lucas, where he told him that you always have to remember at the end of the day, Star Wars is about hope. And it's for kids, and you have to give kids hope. I'm paraphrasing. And I think it takes a delicate hand to balance that aspect of Star Wars with horror. It's just it's sort of an odd combination. I'm sure that there are people who can do it. The person that comes to my mind right off the bat is Mike Flanagan, who is on with Netflix, Fall of the House of Usher, Haunting of Bly Manor. A lot of horror and thriller elements of that. More thriller, I think, for me is where that balance could be struck with Star Wars, I think, most successfully is not leaning too hard into the gore, but pulling back and leaning more into the horror, the thriller side of things.
Yeah.
But Mike Flanagan's he directed the movie The Life of Chuck that's going to be out in June too. Yeah. And if you've seen that trailer, like that's a big departure from what we have sort of come to know him for. So I like to think that somebody like that could pull off a Star Wars horror thing if we were to go that route. But I'm sure there are other directors that could do that. But Kevin, what do you think? Are you more of a horror fan, thriller fan? Where do you lie on this spectrum?
I'm not a huge horror fan, but let's see if fans in the audience will get this reference. I think we really need to decide between Owen Kline and Parker Finn. Between those two directors, so obviously you guys don't watch The Studio.
Oh,
not yet.
Yeah, I finished the whole thing. Yes,
you did. This is the episode. Remember where the episode's called War, and it's funny, but it's about they're doing a movie called Wink, and it's like basically a ripoff of Smile. So they're trying to, both directors are in it playing themselves.
Right.
Nicholas, but it's funny. It's called Wink. And Parker Finn's like, it's bad enough you're having me rip off my own movie, but now you're trying to go with Owen Kline, who's like an indie director. But there is a precedence. There's this novel, Star Wars Death Troopers, which is like a horror novel. I think it's fine. Do that. Go into come on, catch up, camera. I think it's fine to do that, or do a romantic comedy so my wife can watch it, right? Like Sex in the City, Sex on the Coruscant.
I'm on board with that.
But
100%.
Not sex
also, by the way, people, if you haven't heard of The Studio, you're not going to believe what network it's on, which streaming device.
Shocking. Yeah, that's why when
it's on Apple.
Apple Plus, yeah.
Come with me, people.
But it's funny because I literally just saw it today. They're talking about, and man, when does this drop? Tomorrow?
Probably tomorrow. Yeah, probably.
Sorry, I might have spoiled it for big studio fans. But yeah, good show, by the way. I think a horror genre would be fine. I get what Laura's saying, that like Star Wars is for hope, and I think that the main saga can serve as that. But I think you can branch out now. I think Marvel's doing that too, right? With the Marvel Zombies, aren't they doing like a show about that? Or
it's animated, but yes, they're doing that. Avengers Zombies, yes. But I mean.
And I believe they're going to do that with DC too. James Gunn with Swamp Thing, like they're gonna get into horror. So there's genres for there's a lot of genres. I say do it. More Star Wars for me. So
I mean,
I'm not a big horror guy though. I will say I do like it, but I'm too scared.
Well, I mean, Werewolf by Night was in essence an MCU horror show, right? That special they did for Halloween. That's pretty brutal. So I mean, I think a one-off horror special on Star Wars on Disney Plus, I think would be really interesting. Some Jedi get stranded because their ship malfunctions and they land on this weird planet and these weird location, and they have to fight their way out from these horrible things that are coming for them. Why not? Or, you could do a pitch black version in Star Wars where they land and these creatures only like operate in the dark. And so what would that experience be like? I think that would be cool. I think that would be very cool. We're not talking like
Alien.
Right, Alien. Yeah, that kind of approach. We're not talking like, the killer is on the ship, that kind of thing. We're talking about like a little more of an
Skeleton Crew season 2 is going to be a nightmare on whatever street they lived on.
That's right. Nightmare. Yeah, that's right. So I mean, I think those things are possible because they would be exciting with a lot of horror elements. So it would be technically horror, but there would be some fighting back and there might be some deaths, which would be really interesting to show in the world of Star Wars as well. So I like the idea. Mike Flanagan is a great suggestion, Laura. I mean, I think that would excite Mike Flanagan a lot to do a horror in Star Wars. That's going to a whole nother section, a whole nother streaming service because he's done most of his stuff on Netflix. So yeah, I would love that idea. It could be a lot of fun. Yeah, we'll see what happens. You know what else is on Apple right now that no one is watching that is pretty fantastic? Dope Thief, the Brian Tyree Henry Wagner Moura show. We're 3 episodes in. It is excellent. Dope Thief. Him and Wagner Moura, the guy from Civil War, they play these dudes who fake that they're DEA agents and they break into houses that are known drug dens to steal their money, and then they steal money from the wrong drug dealer, so it becomes a whole thing throughout the series. So it's pretty awesome. Set in Philadelphia too. So Laura's right. Nobody watched.
Apologies if you guys are hearing fireworks. Somebody is like setting off fireworks in the back of my apartment.
Hopefully, or might want to get under the chair just and come to the table just in case.
Right? I'm hearing it in my earbuds, so apologies if that's coming through.
Mythic Quest I always liked, and that's getting the boot.
Yeah, but that was 3 seasons though. Yeah. There's so much on Apple TV that no one's talking about. That's pretty excellent. Foundation, those other ones. All right, well, let's move on to this other story. This is a bit of a difficult story, but we should cover it because it's a recent conversation here. Kelly Marie Tran is promoting The Wedding Banquet. It's a new film that she has coming out full of so many incredible people, including Lily Gladstone. But a lot has changed for Kelly Marie Tran since she debuted in Star Wars. But as she looks back on her experience with the fandom, she knows that the racism that she faced was asymptomatic of a larger continuing issue. She was talking about this and talking about her time in Star Wars. She said, it's interesting how it seems to be happening pretty consistently to actors of color who find themselves in these spaces. And I think these occurrences are a microcosm for the social climate that we're living in. And it's really unfortunate. I have so much love and gratitude for the Star Wars universe and that world. Lily Gladstone is a big Star Wars fan as well, my co-star on this movie. We've talked about it. And then they asked her about returning, and she said, I remain such a Star Wars fan. It is such a warm place in my heart, just that whole universe and that entire experience. And I don't know the context to which things would have to fall into place for Rose to return, but I will say that I just love that world. So clearly, Laura, she's saying that she would love to come back and be Rose Tico, but she's also has a bit of distance from the experience of what she. But we're just months away from Amanda Stenberg and the experience she had. So not much has changed here, and you can argue about writing and argue about construction of a show and all, but it is not a coincidence that a lot of actors of color who come into Star Wars get Moses Ingram, get like the terrible treatment here. And certainly Kelly Marie Tran was one of the first to encounter it, and she's talking about it here, but still has a warm place in her heart for Star Wars. What do you think of these comments?
That's actually really heartwarming to hear, because I think that if maybe I was in her position, I don't know if I would be feeling so fond of the Star Wars fandom, even still to this day, but I'm a grudge holder, so that's me. But that's like kind of heartwarming that she is even willing to come back. And this is such an interesting trend, because we've kind of seen it with John Boyega and with Oscar Isaac, who after episode 9 came out were pretty vocal in their opinion of I signed up for a different movie and it ended up not being what I thought it was going to be, and I don't think I would ever come back to Star Wars. And now I think Oscar Isaac is going to be at Star Wars Celebration, and I feel like we've heard comments from him that he would come back too. So this idea that these cast members would have such a negative experience, and I remember, it's so fresh still. It was just so ugly to witness, and I felt so bad for her. But the fact that there's been enough distance, that there's been some forgiveness on her part, it sounds like, and that she would be willing to return and put herself out there in front of the Star Wars fandom again like that, she's a stronger person than I am and more forgiving, because wow, it was brutal. I felt bad for her then, and I still kind of do, but I also watched this trailer for The Wedding Banquet, which is what she's talking about in this Variety article, and it looks so adorable and so funny and so well suited to her specifically. So I'm excited to see that she's doing something that she seems to be doing well career-wise.
Yeah, people forget. She was plucked out of obscurity. She was doing stuff down the street when I was living in LA at UCB. She was not some person who was well regarded. Same thing with Daisy Ridley. She had done 6 episodes of separate British TV shows. She wasn't leading films. Adam Driver had been a name who'd been establishing himself, so he was probably the more experienced of all of them. But it still is amazing to think about these young people coming into this franchise and having to deal with the insane amount of vitriol that most of the people spewing at them couldn't even handle one day of, and the fact that this many people were able to come after. And there's a disconnect, in my opinion. Some people go, well, what about the writing? And I think that's valid. You can have criticism of that, but you weren't attacking the writing. You were attacking her. You were ridiculing her. You were ridiculing her character. You were ridiculing what she was doing. that's where it becomes personal. And you were making comments about her sexual orientation or allusions to all of that. And I think this interview is really empowering to hear her talk about how all these things that I was destroyed for, I am now celebrating within myself, and I am now positive and happy about it, so that I could actually be in a position to go back and do Rose Tico. And there's maybe a feeling that the way she was sidelined in The Rise of Skywalker, it was insulting to her, and she'd like to do something more in another Star Wars movie. So the last feeling of playing Rose Tico is a little better than what happened to her in Rise of Skywalker. What are your thoughts on these comments, Kevin? What do you feel?
You guys covered most of it. I will say, I just think it's cool that she's kind of representing what Star Wars is all about, like kind of rising above that fear. That,
great point.
You know, and just like Star Wars is about hope and resilience. And she's like, look, even though everybody hated on me, like it's still something that she cherishes, and she probably had a great experience on set. Everything afterwards obviously was a nightmare, but to see that she shows those kind of displays of hope and resilience, that's what Star Wars is all about. And if you remember her quote, wasn't it something like, Star Wars isn't about, or it's not Star Wars. She was like, it's not about fighting what we hate, but saving what we love. And I think what she's trying to do as a character or as an actress and person is try to save what she loved about her experience, and say that like she's not gonna let that turn her heart 100% against Star Wars. So it's good to see, and I applaud her for that. And I do feel bad, about how her character was kind of just cast away just because, the faults or the
reaction,
the baton passing from JJ to Ryan back to JJ was horrible. And I've talked about that many times, but I will say that, like you said, the writers got less of the hate than the actresses. And it's like, it's not her fault. She did the best she could. And, she got like friend zone in the first scene of Rise of Skywalker. It's like, oh no, you're going to stay here. I need you more to do the battle plans. Okay, I'm done. There goes that, So, good on her. I don't like to see any actress kind of get all that vitriol, and I think she's playing it the right way.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I know I saw already some people who are invested in twisting the words around, like some dude on Outkick was talking about it, said, oh, still blames the fans. It won't stop talking about it. Come on. She was asked about it. She has a right to speak about it, just like Boyega did. And there are some toxic fans. And so she's going to point that out, that it was a terrible experience. You weren't there. Like, you didn't know. You weren't receiving the comments. You don't know what her experience was like. So I think we need to create space for letting these actors speak about where their feelings are. Some people twisted Boyega's comments to say, oh, he's talking about all the fans. He's not. He's talking about a certain contingent of fans. And it happens to be some of these people who make money off this kind of hate. And so it's like, I like that Kelly is willing to speak about it in an empowering way. And like you said, Laura, it is kind of heartwarming that she'd be open to coming back. And maybe there is a possibility down the road under a better situation with a fantastic script with both her and Finn get their just due in Star Wars, and Poe to a degree as well, when they come back in. Because, I mean, clearly that Rey movie is still in contention. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's still in contention. So we'll see what they're making in that film, what they're writing in that film. It could be everybody coming back and going on a new adventure. Could be interesting, considering what might happen down the road. So we'll see. All right, one last story here before we wrap up, because we're almost at the hour mark, and this was a Kevin. This one's a Kevin special here. There's a story there's a thing that's been announced here. Okay, so some of you might have think you've seen 1977 Star Wars, now of course called The New Hope. For those of us who are old enough, it was just called Star Wars. But what you've likely actually seen is one of the many altered versions of Star Wars that have been in wide distribution ever since the film's initial theatrical run. George Lucas, writer-director that you see there, famously kept making tweaks and changes to his creation through iterations of special editions. Many of these changes are somewhat subtle, while others are glaring, and many say distracting. Dare I say Han Solo stepping over Jabba the Hutt's non-existent tail there. But going over the history of the original Star Wars and transformation is a bit like watching an episode of Botch, where a desire for a little surgical refreshment involves a Negrito shooting first, howling dewbacks, and Harrison Ford stutter stepping, as I said, on the Jabba's tail. But according to the Telegraph, the British Film Institute's Film on Film Festival in June will open with a screening of one of the few remaining Technicolor prints that was produced for Star Wars initial run. This, as the story reports, is the first time the original print has been publicly screened since December of 1978. There have been copies that have made the rounds on home video, but this is all because Lucas's tweaks to the print began with the very first theatrical re-release of Star Wars in 1981. And of course, Lucas famously said about the original editions, the special edition, that's the one I want out there. The other movie's on VHS if anybody wants it. I'm not going to spend, though we're talking about millions of dollars here, the money and the time to refurbish that, because to me, it doesn't really exist anymore. It's like, this is the movie I wanted it to be, and I'm sorry you saw a half-completed film and fell in love with it, but I want it to be the way I want it to be. Kevin, I don't care what George Lucas says. I am incredibly excited by this. I would love to be able to go to this and see an original print of the 1978 original film. That would be such a joy. And certainly this has been passed around on the black market with fans, VHS copies of the original stuff. I think somewhere in my attic in my house in Virginia is still the copies there in VHS. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you love this or do you hate this? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm a fan. I like the special editions because it matches all the other ones. So like when you're watching it, like I like that he brought it all up. I remember seeing Independence Day ID4 in the opening weekend, and they only had the special edition trailer play in like 10 theaters before Independence Day. And I was in one of the test theaters. It was in Irvine, the Irvine Spectrum. Yeah. So I remember freaking out over that special edition, where it's the TV and then the X-Wing flies through the TV and it gets bigger. However, I've always been a proponent of, it's part of film history that the original print should be out there. There's a project called Despecialized Edition where they try to do their best and do that, where they're trying to make it exact. But to see an actual film print, I mean, I'm not going to fly out to do it or to see it and stuff like that. But I think it's important. And I think that one day, I don't think it'll ever happen while Lucas is alive, and God forbid anything happens to him anyway. But like, I think maybe in 20 years, maybe they'll, or I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a hill for me to die on, because we do have the movie and the special edition, and like you said, there's copies floating around. But I do think that for film history, like that there is, like when you see Chinatown or The Godfather or Raging Bull, it's like that's the version that we get to see that released in the theaters. We could see that. And the fact that there's no way to commercially see the original way that my dad saw Star Wars in 77, like in the theater, it's kind of weird. Like it's part of film history. I wish that George could just focus on the fact that most people would probably prefer to watch the special edition. Especially
nowadays, probably.
People, when I showed my wife the Star Wars all in order or whatever, like when we went from episode 3, because I did the original order or just the chronological order, when we went from 3 to 4, like and it's blasphemy because she actually really did like 5 and 6, but 4, like the long desert scenes were like kind of boring for her, like because it was like, how do we go from, Revenge of the Sith and pod races to all of a sudden now we're focusing on these long shots of the desert? Because back then, that's the first time you ever saw it. It's very important, right? Right. And that's why some people think that the machete version is the best way to go. 4, 5, then 1, 2, 3, and then 6, which is also a good version, a way to do it. But anyways, long story short, I like the special editions. That's how I always watch them. I wish that there was, I would watch it. I would love to see it, how it was originally presented. One day, and hopefully that'll be available commercially. I think it's important for film history and for the archives that it exists, and that people, if they're interested just for film, to know like what the achievement that George Lucas did in 1977 back then, just like we could see 2001: A Space Odyssey and stuff. We could see the great strides they made with the special effects back then. Even though it looks crude now, it doesn't matter. We still see Jason the Argonauts, and we see the skeletons come to life, and that blew people away back then. And even though now it looks like, stop motion, it looks like little toys walking around, right? But, Harryhausen, though, I love those effects. It adds that extra charm. So, yeah, for me, I think it is important that eventually they can see it. So I don't know why George is just so against it, but it's his movie. It's his right, But I think that even filmmakers like James Cameron would probably be like, yeah, I have special editions of The Abyss, but like let the original Abyss. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this, Laura? I mean, you're probably someone who's never seen it in its original form, right?
I have not, and I'm going to be honest, I don't really have any desire to, because I'm looking at this image in the Hollywood Reporter article that is from the special edition of Jabba, and this shit's scary. That's nightmare fodder. I don't want to see that, and I know that it was like Jabba was like an actual dude or whatever. And
that scene was cut.
Yeah. He never appears in.
They should have had a cutaway to one of the thugs, and then he's on the other side of Jabba. If you were trying to avoid that thing, but
got it. Yeah. Anyway, clearly I have not seen it. I've just seen these random clips and read these articles about it. And I mean, good for the British Film Institute. They kept this thing stored for 40 years at 23 degrees Fahrenheit in order to preserve the quality of it. So I imagine it's going to look great, just like it originally did to the people who thought it was great in 1977. So yeah, I'm good, I think, but I'm good for all the people that get to go see it. And it sounds like it was a bitch to negotiate with Disney and with Lucasfilm to actually make this one screening of this one version happen. So who knows? Maybe that broke down some barriers, and there'll be more versions of it out there available for people to see.
This just in: John Rocha, after screening Andor, is also going to screen his VHS copy of on his X account. Stay tuned for details. That's what Rocha says.
Shit. I bet that's all corroded by now. I mean, I haven't pulled those out in years, man. So I imagine.
Have they not been stored at 23 degrees Fahrenheit in Virginia, John?
They've been stored at whatever degrees the attic is in Virginia. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, that's how I saw that. Right, I saw the original Star Wars and on TV first, and then when they reissued it before George got to tinkering with it, I saw it. So it's like this is what I remember, right? And so for me, it would be great. I think there's a lot of us of this age who grew up at that time who would really love that to have it as an option. It doesn't mean that we would denigrate the special editions or anything, even though there are some scenes that could be denigrated. It doesn't mean we're going to do that. It's respecting the fans, and these are the original fans. Like, we are the foundation with which all this other Star Wars fandom came from. So in a way, it's a bit insulting for me that George won't do this. It really does bother me that he has this thing about it. Like, Coppola redid Godfather 3, but he's not stopping you from watching the original version of it. And so that's what, and you made a great point, Kevin, with Abyss. Like, I love the original Abyss. I saw that in theaters, and then I bought the DVD or the Blu-ray with all the multiple versions. And guess what? I still enjoy the original and love the multiple versions. Same thing with Blade Runner. I mean, Ridley Scott's got 46 different versions of that movie. I have watched them all and loved them all in different ways. Coppola did that with Apocalypse Now, with the redo, right? Adding stuff. I think it's great if you're a director, you want to go back and add stuff, fine. But you got to leave the original for the people that love the original. Like, I think it's a weird hill that he wants to make
so much money if they did a weekend release of the originals too.
If they released
so much money,
if they did release them all in 4K, it would make millions upon millions upon millions of dollars
for the cinephiles and all that. Yeah.
And even the curious people from y'all's generation who might be like, well, what is the difference?
You want to afford Jimmy Smits for Andor season 2? Just one weekend at Alamo Draft House of Star Wars, the original print.
Awesome.
All back. That's it. I should wrap. I'm done. I'm out.
Okay. All right.
I'm out. See you later.
And that was Kevin's last episode of The Jedi Way.
Yeah, and it is my last.
But yeah, so we'll see. So yeah, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I looked up online. Look, I'm not trying to leave the country for the next 4 years for a lot of reasons, but like looking at it, and those tickets aren't even available yet. But I imagine they'll sell out in like 30 seconds. So yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, for everybody who's over there, good luck. And if you get a ticket, maybe I'll risk leaving the country. And you want to buy me a ticket, I will go. For God's sakes, I would love to be in the theater for that. All right, well, there you go. That's our episode of The Jedi Way. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Sorry we went a little bit over an hour, but we had a lot to talk about, to get into. And of course, we still got Star Wars Celebration happening in a few days here, and Andor's first 3 episodes are dropping next week. So we have to figure out if we're going to be coming back for the next 4 weeks weekly, doing a review of the show and talking other Star Wars news. So look out for news from us on that front. Laura, another fun show. Please let people know where they can find you and everything you got going on.
Yeah, come find my podcast, Force Toast, a Star Wars Happy Hour, on Blue Sky. It's at Force Toast Pod. I'm also on Blue Sky at Shutup-Laura. Those are the 2 main places where you can find me. We did release a new episode of Force Toast this past week, where we talked a little bit about the new High Republic book, Into the Light, with no spoilers. That book just came out. And Alice did a brief review of the other new book that just came out, which is The Mask of Fear. It's part of the Reign of the Empire series that Alexander Freed is writing. Nice. So not a lot of spoilers there, maybe a little bit, but yeah, not a ton. We learned some interesting things about Mon Mothma in that series. And Alice had mentioned that the book made her sort of view Bail Organa in a different light. Changes things a little bit. Yeah. So I'm curious to learn more about that. But yeah, come find me on socials there. That's it's on Blue Sky. Shut up, Laura.
Bail Organa, quietly the star of the show today. Quietly the star of the show today.
Right?
That's my friend.
Kevin Smets, another fun show with you, brother. Thanks so much for joining us. You know, it's always fun when it's the three of us, and you are a big part of the three of us. So please let people know where they can find you and all the stuff you got going on.
At Kev Smets, you could find me. We got the official KOTOR Convergence release date now, featuring Revan and Revan versus Revan, which you'll know from if Rocha would know if he read the copy. Of
for the love of.
But yeah, June 14th is the release date for that. You can go to Star Wars Squad on YouTube or just search right now. It's easier to search KOTOR movie trilogy. I think Star Wars Squad might have been a bad name. Like it's just not catching on the search engines like Smash City Studios used to. I think it's because Star Wars Squadrons just kind of like, oh, that's what you're trying to search for, not our channel. So, but yeah, search KOTOR movie trilogy, KOTOR Convergence. You'll find our channel there. At Kev Smets at Twitter. And yeah, it's good to see you guys. And if I'm not canceled from on the show, I will see you guys next week. We got Andor, right?
Yes, Andor. So we got to talk about whether the three of us are going to be reviewing it every week. So we got to figure that out. But definitely, hopefully we will for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about that. I know I'm looking forward to seeing what Laura's reactions will be to the show. So
yeah,
me too.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. But yeah, it's always good seeing you guys. And Rocha, don't forget.
Yeah, I promise I won't forget.
You're fine. You don't worry. You
and feel free to text me. It's okay to text me and let me know.
I don't want to bother you. You're a busy guy.
That's why you got to text me, because I'm a busy. I got a million things going on. But that being said, I do need to create a to-do list, and you're right. I should be putting stuff up there so I can knock it out. I'm still relying on this, and I'm just getting older, and this isn't necessarily always on top of everything. So, but yeah, please remind me. As for me, you can always follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads. I'm all over the place. Please remember to subscribe to the channel down below. Really important. We crossed 37,400 the other day, marching towards that 50,000. Would love to have you all help us get there. Thanks. Please subscribe there, hit the bell button, and leave your comments about everything we talked about. Try to keep it as civil as possible, y'all. It's good. It's okay to disagree. Just don't get toxic. Would appreciate that, because I'll probably delete your comment if I read it, and you'll have achieved nothing.
Comments. Yeah, he deletes my comments. Come on.
I know. I keep your comments, even though, like, at times is a little close. So, we keep it. But I appreciate you all watching us here on the Jedi Way. And for those of you who are going to Celebration or at Celebration and watching us, enjoy yourself. Have a great time in Japan. And if you want to send us something like a little video or say whatever, DM us and let us know how it's going there and what you attended and what you saw. It would be kind of fun. If it's a good video, we'll play it on the show. I absolutely will play it on the show. So let us know. All right. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And Laura, what do we tell them?
Always remember, your focus determines your reality.